gentlemen, thank you so much for watching Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. This is Financial Markets, and of course, it's another edition of the show where we get to look into the global, the regional, as well as the domestic financial markets. And my name is Anthony, and I am your host. I hope you're having yourselves a wonderful day so far. This is Smart 24 TV. Remember, we said we shall mean business 24 hours, 7 days a week. And of course, these are some of the things we try to bring to your attention and notice: the investments in different business segments, both here in East Africa, in the domestic markets, in Uganda, as well as the global markets. And we get you, of course, up to speed with what's happening across the markets and get you ahead on the latest stories as well of your favorite companies. The show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa. Today in East Africa, you don't have to go to a stockbroker to buy treasury bonds or go to a stock exchange. With Altex East Africa, under their Zabu initiative, you can be able to buy or sell treasury bonds across East Africa. They as well have an exchange traded fund where they give you the best bonds at the given interest rates, and we get these at the exchange traded fund, which comes with, of course, the different diversified treasury bond package, where you can be able to invest at once in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania with as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Altex East Africa is regulated by the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda, and they open their markets at 15 minutes past 8 a.m. and close at 15 minutes past 3 p.m. East African Standard Time. All you need to do is dial *292# and change your life and change your investment portfolio. Away from Altex, there we have it. Of course, today being the second day of trading, we are looking into the 23rd of January. That is yesterday. How much did we have in the African markets? And getting to look into Africa overall, it was a pretty a good day for most of the stock exchanges, basically looking at the benchmark indices across East Africa and across African stock markets, with the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, which is the principal stock exchange of South Africa and the biggest stock exchange in Africa via market capitalization, as well as the listings there. It came in with a gain of over 858 points on their benchmark index, the J203. And this was a 1.08% positive movement in the positive direction that is on their all-share index daily performance there. We're going to see the details later on, but also the Nairobi Securities Exchange added 1.4 points on their all-share index, with over 50 plus companies that participated in trading out of the 65 companies there. Pretty wonderful trading, though of course the day ended with a slight decline in the volumes that were traded on the bourse there in the Nairobi, the capital of the Kenyan, of course, our Kenyan neighbors here. We do have Nigeria Stock Exchange as well, who went up by 63.01 points on their benchmark index as well. There on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, which was a 0.12% appreciation in the points there. We shall see the details later on. Zimbabwe went up as well by 170.43 points as well on the African continent. But all this, of course, looking into the global market, the US markets moved as well positively in the positive direction there. And as we, of course, look ahead to the big gains there from the companies that are going to be very soon going to be announced, as of course getting to also look very closely at the Federal Reserve meeting this month. The markets are continuing to rally against inflation, against the treasury bond there on the US market. We are going to see the details as well. But of course, East or West, home is the best. So we shall, of course, first divulge into the Uganda Stock Exchange. Our company here, the Uganda Securities Exchange, has over 18 listings, and 10 of these are domestic listings, and the other 8 are cross listings, mainly from the Nairobi Stock Exchange. In their last day of trading, according to data from the exchange, the day ended with two USE listed equities participating in trading, and this was MTN Uganda and DFCU Bank, with the day ending with 4 gainers and 3 losers. Now, the Nation Media Group company gained most with a 1.59% appreciation in price, and closing the day with a price of 483.46 Ugandan shillings. He was followed by KCB Group at a 1.09% share price appreciation, closing the day with a price of 1,138.94 shillings. Kenya Airways as well, a company that's been battered by so many challenges, including lack of remuneration for their pilots last year, seeing that strike where the pilots handed down their tools of work in order to strike for salary increments, and also the company is still struggling with some public debt, which is currently also being faced by the Kenyan government. The company went up in about 0.04% to 113.60 Ugandan shillings per share. And East African Breweries as well had a 0.03% appreciation in price, closing their day with a price of 5,042.20. Amongst all these, none of them participated in the day's trading on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Entirely, these were movements based on factors outside demand and supply of their stock. Now, at the bottom losers, we do have Centum, who came out at the very bottom with a 2.09% loss there on the Uganda Stock Exchange, down to 246.77 shillings. Looks like Centum is not yet up to speed in 2023. Of course, the company lost greatly in 2022. Over 50% of its value, close to 50%, between 45 and 50% of their value there on the exchange last year. But as if that is not enough, the company is continuing to drop in price even in the new year 2023, currently with a drop of over 2.09% on their last day trading. Equity Bank Limited as well had a 0.40% depreciation in price, down to 1,364.36 Ugandan shillings. Jubilee Holdings lost over 0.09% of their price, down to 5,197.17 shillings per share. Now, in as far as the participation is concerned, a very narrow participation here in the market, and just two companies were able to trade on the Uganda Stock Exchange. And this was MTN Uganda, who had actually their biggest movement of so far the week, with over 304,837 shares that were traded on the stock exchange. And now Uganda, DFCU Bank Uganda as well also gained over close to 35 shares on its track record there. And this was ending the day with a price of 542 Ugandan shillings per share. MTN Uganda still is the third most valuable company via market capitalization, but also one of the most traded on stocks in the last 3 months. And we are, of course, not realizing any gain in price there or value for shareholders. And we hope definitely that will come through as the year goes by. The company is still currently the newest listing on the exchange, experiencing just about a year on the exchange, making the year last month, about around the 6th of December last year. And of course, they haven't regained their value from the initial public offer, whose, of course, share went up to 200 shillings. But that hasn't been recouped since the company got listed on the secondary market here at the Uganda Securities Exchange. In as far as the Uganda Securities Exchange All-Share Index, which is the benchmark of performance on the BOAS, it inched up over 0.90 points and this was 0.07% appreciation to 1,214.79 points, representing a 1-week loss of 0.68% and a 4-week gain of 1.92%. The local company index also maintained its value at 274.11 points. That's in as far as the Uganda Securities Exchange is concerned. Our market capitalization still currently stands above 20 trillion, precisely speaking 20.9 trillion Ugandan shillings on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Currently, the atmosphere of investment around the Ugandan capital markets is more tending towards the unit trusts. They have become more and more prominent with time. And of course, with the new board that was inaugurated last year in December by the Capital Markets Authority, the Capital Markets Authority new board actually what we did experience during that inauguration of the new board was the emphasis to be laid on the unit trust this year. According to NDP3, the unit trust actually surpassed the target, where of course we had a couple of 1 trillion, which was the target. The unit trust surpassed that with over 1.4 trillion that was registered last year in one of the quarters last year as the unit trust total assets under management. The unit trust is very, very unique in a way that you get to invest in the treasury bonds, you get to invest in the stocks, both local or domestic and regional, and you get a return on your investments daily. And then the best part of the unit trust is the liquidity it does offer. You get to liquidate your investments anytime within at least 3 working days. You will be able to recoup your investment, and that's what makes the unit trust very, very special and tailored for the Ugandan investor. So if you're out there and you seem not to be getting into the business of the stock market, you don't know which companies to invest in, well, get into the unit trusts, get into those collective. Of course, some people call them the famously known collective investment schemes. Yes, like the word goes, collective and investment. So you have investors coming together, and through a fund manager, of course, this is supposed to be licensed by the Capital Markets Authority. You get your funds invested in the different market segments or in the different asset classes, and all you wait for is a return which comes every single day. Yes, I mean it. Every single day you get a return on your investment. So on average, last year we had interest rates on unit trusts currently at about 11 to 12% annually, and so that was one of the best we've ever had actually for any asset class here in the financial markets of Uganda. So please check them out. We have a couple of licensed fund managers, including Zeno Investment, including Sanlam, and so many others. You just go to the Capital Markets Authority website and get to search out for licensed fund managers by the Capital Markets Authority. You will definitely see the list and what services they do have to offer. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to cross over to Nairobi Securities Exchange. Nairobi's day was as well pretty wonderful for them, with a 1.4 points increase on their benchmark index. Now, the market saw over about 52 companies participating in the daily trading there at a bourse that has over 65 companies listed, and the oldest bourse in East Africa. Now, Home Africa led the gainers. The gainers were a total of about 24 companies, whereas the losing side, we had about 19 companies there that lost on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Home Africa is the only property developer and real estate dealer that is listed currently on the growth enterprise market segment on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now remember, the growth enterprise market segment, of course, focuses mainly on the small and medium enterprises that are promising definitely to get listed on the main board someday. And we see them mainly being some of the stocks that are quite volatile because, of course, of their, first of all, the low pricing. It means that the prices could shift anytime in any direction depending on the whims of the investors, but also because it's easier to lose on some of these stocks than the bigger stocks there that have quite a big value if at all any losses occur. Now, Home Africa lost, or rather gained most on the first day of trading at the Nairobi Securities Exchange with a 10% share price appreciation to 0.33 Kenyan shillings per share. He was followed by Olympia Capital Holdings with over 7.14% gain. TransCentury Limited as well gained close to 5.69%, and Longhorn Publishers about 5.16%. On the losing side, however, we did have Nairobi Business Ventures perform quite poorly for the day with a 9.75% depreciation to 3.61 Kenyan shillings per share. eGads as well lost a 7.96% value on their price, and Express Kenya lost about 7.74% on their value, and Samia Africa about 6.61% there on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. In terms of trading, Safaricom continued to rally the Nairobi markets with a total volume of close to 2.27 million shares, which was the biggest for the day on the bourse, and followed by Centrum Investments Company at a very big margin with 463,300 shares that were traded on the company. CIC Insurance Company as well had about 181,900 shares traded, and Kenya Power and Lighting Company close to 137,100 shares that were recorded. In as far as the benchmark index, the Nairobi Securities Exchange All-Share Index, mainly because of the good performance of the small stocks and in aggregate the big stocks as well, we had an increase of just slightly about 1.4 points, and this was closing at 125.67 points on the total value there of the benchmark index, the All-Share Index, which tracks the aggregate performance of the 65 listed equities on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Currently, in the last 4 weeks, the company has lost 1.94%, and the overall 1 week gain, however, is 3.04%, and the year-to-date loss currently stands at 1.41% on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. The other remarkable indices like the NSE 20 gained at 0.56%, and the NSE 25 gained at close to 0.86%. And on average, when you look at the Nairobi Stock Exchange market capitalization, currently it has about 1.96 trillion Kenyan shillings, and about a total of 3.9 shares that were recorded last evening as per the trading data here from the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now let's cross over to Western Africa, get to have a look at the Ghana Stock Exchange and a couple of other exchanges in West Africa. Ghana Stock Exchange All-Share Index did not see any changes, marking a total value of 2,434 points. Now the day ended with 7 listed equities participating in trading out of the 39 listings, and MTN Ghana recorded the biggest volume with no gainers and no losers on the Ghanaian market. Now MTN Ghana had the biggest value or volume there at 2,142 traded shares, maintaining its position as the #1 most traded on stock on the Ghana Stock Exchange. Unilever Ghana as well had about 545 shares, and GCB Bank at about 486 shares as well. Getting to look into Nigeria Stock Exchange, still sticking to this West African markets, we did realize a gain of about 63 points on the benchmark index on Nigeria Stock Exchange. and this currently represents a value of 52,600 points on the Nigeria Stock Exchange. The day had about 115 companies participate in trading, ending with over 18 gainers and just 13 losers, with John Holt appreciating the most at 9.38% on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And down to the South African market, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange as well did realize a little bit of increase in the value there, with over 858 points appreciating on the J203, which is a benchmark index as well, and closing at 80,128 points. African Dawn Capital led the gainers there on the South African market with over 58% gain on their price, up to about 0.19 South African rand. Getting to the US market, of course, that's the overview we had for you from Africa. And Africa is a very promising capital markets space where investors, both local and international, foreign, are actually making great investments there within the African market. And you can always diversify your portfolio across Africa. It doesn't matter if you're a domestic or an international investor. You just need to get to spot where you think in terms of sector, in terms of region and location, where you think you're going to actually get that return in, especially the long run. Now, getting to crossover to the US stock markets, the US stock markets generally gained on Monday as investors braced for as a jam-packed week of corporate earnings and contemplated the Federal Reserve's next move ahead of the central bank's meeting later this month. The S&P 500 rose by 0.9%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average added about 240 points, which was a 0.78%, by the way. And the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite again led the way, rallying over 1.5%. All eyes on, of course, the Salesforce Monday morning after the news hedge fund Elliott Investment Management has taken over the multi-billion-dollar activist stake in the software giant. Shares advanced over 2.6% at the start of trading. And that's, of course, the market update I had for you. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned. Smart24 TV has a lot more business content to unleash in your face. So keep tuned. More is yet to come your way. My name is Anthony. I'll catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye for now.